Supervisors to order and welcome you all here this evening. It's good to see a nice crowd tonight. If you have a cell phone, if you wouldn't mind putting that on vibrate or silent, and if you have a cap, gentlemen, we'd ask that you remove it while in the boardroom. We'll open up our meeting with a moment of silence. Thank you. If you'd rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, next item is the approval of our agenda. Any questions regarding the agenda? Not, I'd entertain a motion for adoption.
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I have a motion from Ms. Parker, seconded by Mr. Davis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. This brings us to our citizen comment time. We have 15 minutes slotted for this. I've got 4 folks, I believe, that signed up for the citizen comment time. Others for the public hearings that'll be a little bit later in the building. So you'll have 3 minutes. If you could come to the lectern and give us your name and either your voting district or your address. And then you'll have 3 minutes to share whatever you'd like with us this evening. First one I have signed up is Jeff Powers.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to be here. I haven't been at this lectern for a while. I'm coming to you as chairman of the Ag Board and just give you some brief end of the year type report. It's going to be very quick. As you know, several years ago, we had a coyote issue and we came up with the coyote lottery. That's still going on. But the exciting thing that started this year is we had so many complaints with people hitting deer. And the hunters were out killing the bucks, but they was letting the does go. Well, the does is what gets us all our population. So Dr. Gardner and his crew on the Ag Board came up with an idea to have a contest, if you will. It's a raffle, and we're working with Hunters for the Hungry. So those antlerless deer that are turned in to these certain checkpoints get to enter this. The exciting thing is last year at this time, Hunters for the Hungry had taken in 300 and some odd deer. This year it's 600 and some, so they've doubled the number.
Nice.
And that should help us, if we keep this going, it should help us with our roads and hitting deer and damage to the crops. It's a very good program, so we're pleased with that, and thank Dr. Gardner for coming up with that and working with Hunters for the Hungry. Of course, the other things we have going on, a lot of things that pertain to agriculture. We've worked real hard to try to stay on top of a lot of things like the education with the FFA and 4-H. The other thing, of course, that we had a very successful fair about 10 years ago. Your board asked the Ag Board to look into bringing the county fair back, and we've done that. There have been some issues, and hopefully we can work through those. We want the county and the Ag Board and the Fair Board, we get together and come up with a good plan moving forward, because we know we can have a good fair. So it's just a matter of getting together. That's the way I see it. It's always a pleasure to be here with all of you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jeff. Next up, I have Carolyn Fellers.
Good evening. I'm Carolyn Fellers of 2840 Roaring Run Road in Good. I'm also Vice Chairman and Treasurer of Bedford County Fair, and I manage the exhibit hall ag competition area. First, I would like to say that we have appreciated the past support and sponsorship of the fair. The monies you spent and donated to us covered the cost of event insurance, the salaries of the Bedford County Sheriff's Office deputies to provide security and traffic control, and help cover the sanitation expenses. The staff we worked with in multiple departments was great, knowledgeable, and very helpful to make the fair a success. They were our partners, and we are grateful for all of them. We came into the 2024 fair understanding the Falling Creek site was not sustainable long-term. However, we understood the county was interested in finding a long-term solution. On November 12th, we met with administration and Supervisor Tuck to discuss the possible use of Falling Creek property for one more year, while we built a partnership with the county to identify a new site for the fair and begin planning for the future. We are aware of the goal to place a new social services building on the site. However, it was possible the construction would not have begun before we held the fair. During this meeting, we learned a member of the Board of Supervisors had a conversation with a private landowner about using their property for the fair. We have no issue with the landowner. Their property is not conducive to what is needed and necessary to support the type of county fair, a traditional county fair with the educational and community aspects that we want to continue having. A fair that celebrates and showcases the talents and creativity of the residents in our community. The type of fair many counties in our Commonwealth hold every year.
My laptop's down.
Midway and Carnival games add a fun aspect to the event,
They gotta sit there and take.
like ours. For us, it's a small
was working
portion
until they
of
worked
what
on
a county fair is all about. We made it very clear that wherever we landed, a secure building is a necessity for the fair. The site that does not have a secure building. So in order to hold the ag competition, a tent would be required. A tent does not provide a safe, secure place to store food, show fiber arts, photography, and art items. And especially not for the time frame it takes to receive, process, judge, and stage the entries for fair weekend. In all fairness to our entrants and to protect their entries, we declined the offer of that site. Another important aspect is that the people of our community requested a central location for the fair. In our meeting on November 12th, other centrally located sites were mentioned that could potentially work for the fair and other community events. The recommended site did not provide that either. Our request is that you begin looking at the sites mentioned in that meeting. The properties are already owned by Bedford County and have been sitting vacant for a long time. The space is there to construct a secure building with outdoor event space and on-site parking. In the meantime, our board will continue to look for a site where we can hold the fair that has the necessary items that we need to hold that fair. Thank you.
Carolyn. Next up, I have Ethan Jackson.
Good evening. My name is Ethan Jackson. I'm from District 2, 1211 West Side Lane in Manita. I'm a volunteer for the fair, and I specifically assisted with the building and grounds this year. I enjoyed my time as a volunteer, engaging with the community and working with our local vendors. We received a lot of positive feedback regarding the new location and site, but one piece of feedback stood out amongst the rest. As you know, this year the fair was adjacent to Mary Baldwin Group Home, which provides safe homes for some of our most vulnerable Bedford residents with mental and physical disabilities. The following is a completely unsolicited email the fair received at the conclusion of the event. I wanted to send a big thank you to the county fair planners and all the officers and volunteers that helped create such a wonderful event this past weekend. I manage one of the 2 group homes across the road from the fairgrounds. This event was a most amazing blessing. Because of the proximity of the fairgrounds, all of the people in the homes were able to easily access all areas of the fair that they were interested in. We so very much appreciated the restricted parking on the property, as it allowed use to continue to maintain a safe and secure home environment for them, as well as allowing them to enjoy the music and still be able to watch the exciting rides and public activities from home. It also allowed for a high degree of natural independence for those people living in the home that wanted to explore vendors and activities at the gymnasium. I hope that the fair continues to be held at the location on Falling Creek Road. The deputies manning the crosswalk were so polite and helpful and provided even more peace of mind. The entire weekend was a wonderful experience, and we are all looking forward to next year's fair. Thank you so much. As you move forward, I encourage you to reconsider your treatment of the fair board and remember these comments. The overwhelming amount of positive feedback the fair received, the overall safety and success of the fair, but most of all, the wishes of the people who elected you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. And next up, I have Joy Powers.
My name is Joy Powers. I'm from District 2, and I'm here tonight during public comment as the Bedford County Fair Superintendent. First, I just want to thank the countless volunteers, sponsors, county employees, emergency services, and most of all the community who made our 2024 event such a success. However, unfortunately, that success is now partially being overshadowed by decisions that have placed the fair's future in question. Over the last month, the county has chosen to end its partnership with the fair and deny us the opportunity to continue to pursue a long-standing agreement towards a permanent and publicly owned home, suddenly and without any communication. However, last Friday, a public statement with numerous mistakes was released by the county To clarify and to correct some details, as reflected in public record, I would like to share a little bit about the timeline of our working relationship. The Bedford County Fair presented during a work session to this board in 2022 regarding the future of the fair, not 2024. We discussed securing a permanent public location for the fair, among other long-term needs. You all were supportive. Each of you also received a follow-up letter, which you can seek out, reiterating those needs from 2022. Subsequently, as a result of that work session, a meeting with representatives from your board, our board, representatives from the administration, and directors from 5 county departments met, and the Falling Creek site was presented as an option, not by us, the fair board, but by the county as a potential location. We simply went where you asked us to go. In February 2024, we did not approach you with a last-minute request. We came on schedule, asking for the fair's date to be approved and for you all to confirm that we could have the event on the site that we had been working for 2 years. Following that decision, the Fair Board invested nearly $20,000 in infrastructure improvements to county-owned land. This fall, when the county's plans for the site suddenly changed in late July, we remained cooperative and understanding. And in November, after months of asking to speak to your board, we submitted a written request to explore other publicly owned options for a permanent home, while, like Carolyn said, possibly using Falling Creek for 1 more year. That request, which sought to ensure the fair's sustainability, was denied, not just the continued use of Falling Creek, as the county statement said on Friday. We are deeply confused by the lack of transparency and the abrupt halt in collaboration that we've had with your board since August. Closed session decisions and public misrepresentations have never been the way our boards have operated and served this county together. Over the past week, because we've been forced to speak in public comment, we have communicated openly with our community, stakeholders, and sponsors about this situation. That was not our intention or our first wish. Some of you have expressed resentment about the public's reaction to our transparency. However, I assure you and I assure the public that every statement that we have made can be proven and verified with the public record. We are committed to serving our community with transparency and honesty. I urge this board to consider the impact of these decisions, not just on the fair, but on the community members who benefit from it and support it, the businesses who profit from it. The voters who entrusted you to make decisions on their behalf are united in their beliefs that the fair needs a permanent home that we can grow for generations to come, just like counties all across our state have. The Fair Board is going to host a fair in 2025, and we desperately hope that it's still in name and in nature, the county fair. But that is going to require an action for us to reestablish, redefine, and come together and truly communicate. All we are asking is to come back and build something positive, profitable, and smart for our county. We appreciate your support in the past. We ask for it again in the future. The public is not against you. They're simply for the fair. We encourage you, if you reconsider tonight, they will applaud you, they will commend you for simply representing their wishes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That closes our citizen comment portion of our meeting this evening. That moves us on to the consent agenda. Mr. Hiss?
Mr. Chair, we have 4 items on the consent agenda this evening. Item A is a resolution authorizing the clerk of court to contract with Logan Systems Incorporated for re-indexing of land records and appropriating technology trust funds and the clerk's operational expenses for completion of phase 4 of that project. Item B is a resolution authorization to execute an agreement with the Virginia Department of Transportation for the Meade Road Economic Development Access Grant and affirm the funding commitment. Item C is a resolution supporting legislation to dissolve the Virginia Recreation Facilities Authority governing Explorer Park. And item D is a resolution approving the submission of a Make Ready grant application on behalf of Zytel.
All right. Are there any questions regarding any items on the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, if there are none, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Sharp. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Scott. This is a roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Bansley? Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. Next up is the approval of our minutes from the October 28th and November 18th, 2024 meetings. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
make a motion we approve the minutes from October 28th and November the 18th.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Parker. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to our public hearings and presentations for the evening. The first item on here is a public appearance from the Community Pet Coalition of Bedford. And I believe, is this Michelle Burns? Barons. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Behrens, and I'm the interim vice or president for the citizens, the Community Pet Coalition. The Community Pet Coalition is a newly formed, 100% volunteer, soon-to-be 501c3 nonprofit. with the mission and vision of providing local pet health care solutions to Bedford residents and rescues. In the past few months, our group has met with DW Longhorn to discuss potential options for a wellness and spay-neuter clinic within the new shelter expansion. In researching other local nonprofit clinics, we believe once a wellness clinic is established, operating costs will be covered by the clinic's own income. Veterinary services will not be free, of course, but will be within affordable range. The need for a clinic, an in-house clinic, will save the county time, travel time, and money, while benefiting the shelter animals. If every shelter animal leaves already spayed and neutered, given the appropriate age, the chance of returning offspring is 0. An animal that is already spayed and neutered is also more desirable and likely to be adopted quicker, therefore freeing up valuable kennel space. The spay-neuter clinic will also create much-needed support for the TNR rescues in the region. Bedford Cares is one local nonprofit that has, in the last year, spayed and neutered 1,300 cats. In the past 5 years, Bedford Humane Society, another local nonprofit, has altered 2,412 cats through their Forgotten Felines spay-neuter program. Compare that to outside the county, you have Angels of Assisi in Roanoke has spayed and neutered over 10,000 animals. Franklin County has last year spayed and neutered 7,000 animals. So compare that to Bedford, I think we can do better. Our future clinic down the road can be set up as a scholarship for vet tech training students, which is a highly desirable field of study. Fundraising. We already have begun spreading the word about our new nonprofit within the community and on social media, and have received welcoming response. We have a variety of fundraisers underway and are currently seeking donated retail space for a thrift store that will help fund the clinic. I think we can do this together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So how many here are affiliated with that coalition? Thank you for your support of our animal shelter. And if the public wasn't aware, we are doing an addition there, so the kennel space will be increased. Yep. All right. Next up, we have consideration of a resolution approving special use permit application SU 24-0006 on behalf of Zytel. Resolution R120-92404. Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, this is a special use permit application SU 24-0006. The application number, as I mentioned to you, is a few minutes ago. Applicant for this is Mr. Rodney Gray of Zytel. Current property owner of the subject parcel is the County of Bedford, and the parcel number is 19902900. It's further identified as tax map number 199-A-29. Zoning of that particular parcel is agricultural rural preserve district, along with the corridor overlay district running along the street in front of the property. Special use that is being requested this evening is a general office use, meeting hall use, and construction yard use of the subject property, and it is located in election district number 2. Here is the zoning map of the subject property. You see everything zoned AP. You do have some CO there running along the corridor overlay district. Future land use map has everything in that particular area as the agricultural natural resource stewardship. Here's an aerial photograph of the site. This is from 2022. And here is Mr. Gray's proposal for the use of the property. The only addition you see to the property is they want to use the existing facilities. There is a storage and equipment yard that is shaded behind the building that they are planning to stick some of the equipment. There will be a buffer yard around the perimeter of the property that adjoins residential uses. So these were the comments from our technical review committee meeting for the site plan stage of this project, is that VDOT will require a traffic narrative where they do believe a right turn taper will be required. And that, of course, will be required if there's over 50 right turn movements per hour. A left turn lane does not appear to be justified based off the assumptions from the technical review committee meeting and the use of the property. The Planning Commission held a public hearing for this application on November 12, 2024. We did have 4 citizens speak during the public hearing. We had 2 in opposition, citing concerns with the location of the proposed use, and they also took issue with the sale of the property. And we did have 2 that spoke in favor of the application. The Planning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of the application with a staff condition. And that staff condition is listed here as general conformance with the concept plan and conformance with all ordinance standards and required for site plan approval. Any changes to the layout of the site will result in increased impacts to adjoining properties. Uses shall require approval of an amended special use permit, and that particular process is outlined in section 30-19 of the zoning ordinance. Can I answer any questions from a planning perspective for you?
Any questions for Jordan? I think we're good. All right, this is a public hearing.
We do have Mr. Gray. He did have
Oh, that's
he
right.
does have a presentation as well for you.
Presentation from you.
Gave this to me last time. He must have a picture. There you go.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I feel like I should have some type of freaking speaker program. So, coming to you guys in the final process of our acquisition of the Body Camp Elementary School building to become the Zytel headquarters and data center at Body Camp. Just wanted to show you a couple slides here. This is a conceptual plan that we have in place of an artist rendition of what the building potentially is going to look like. It's a 34,000 square foot building. To give those of you that don't know much about Zytel, we are an active fiber optic internet service provider headquartered here in Bedford County, with our headquarters located in downtown Manita, which we have currently completely outgrown and are looking to expand. The opportunity came up with an RFP to acquire the Body Camp facility, and we took of it. Currently, Zytel has active fiber services throughout Bedford County, Campbell County, Roanoke County, and the city of Lynchburg. This is an older slide that needs to be updated. We have approximately over 500 miles of fiber. It says 400 on there, but we've surpassed 500 as at the end of November. This has 12,500 passings. We're well over 15,000 passings now in Bedford County.
Can you please speak up, Rodney?
Sorry. We have over 500 miles of fiber in Bedford County now, and approaching 15,000 passings right now that we can provide internet service to. Future projects include a 150-mile build in Franklin County, a 725-mile build in Carroll County, and 210-mile build in Spartanburg, Greenville area of South Carolina. All that will be coordinated and headquartered from Zytel headquarters right here in Bedford County. This is our site plan of what we want to change about the facility, which is not much. You can see the shaded area, as Jordan spoke to, is going to be a chain-linked fence. It's going to have a 10-foot tall fence with the camouflaged netting going through it so that you can't, see the contents of our construction equipment, spools of fiber, materials that we're going to be using for installation of services throughout Bedford County. This is a slide that shows the current layout of all of our fiber offerings, the fiber map that we have in Bedford County right now. A little bit up towards the top in the Groose Creek Valley, still under construction right now. I have with me Mr. Will Yeager, who is our project engineer for planning, and he's going to be, myself and him will be available to answer any questions you guys have about the special use permit and what we want to do.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
All right,
All
thank
right.
you.
Right. Now we'll move to the public hearing session, and I have one person that's signed up. Again, you have 3 minutes to address it. So Joy Powers.
Hello again. I'm Joy Powers. I'm still from District 2, but however, tonight I speak to you completely as an individual who has been outspoken and concerned about the sale of this historic school, but nothing I say here reflects on the Bedford County Fair or the Bedford County Fair Board. I just want to be perfectly clear. Tonight's vote will finalize the sale of Body Camp Elementary. I have begged and pleaded and tried alongside of a large contingency of the community to change your minds about this decision, but that's not going to happen here tonight. The community does feel, the Body Camp community feels that we are losing a piece of living history. And while we may be losing a physical landmark, I wanted to remind everyone that decisions like these can leave behind another kind of legacy, a mental landmark, a shared memory etched into the conscience of a small town like Bedford. Remember when they sold Body Camp will be something that's said from years from now. I'm not sure how this situation necessarily got hostile. There's been accusations of threats towards Zytel. I just want to take the public opportunity to just say that Zytel is an important part of our community. They are an important part of the broadband efforts that you guys have worked for years in order to provide our citizens with that service. The question was never about Zytel. It was about the community of Body Camp. And so I just wanted to publicly say that the community of Body Camp and myself personally, I can assure you, this has nothing to do, and it has never had anything to do with Zytel or Mr. Gray. Body Camp has stood as a symbol of resilience and connection. In July, almost 100 community members filled this boardroom of all generations. People who went to that school when it was segregated came and spoke to you and shared what that brick and mortar meant to them. But again, today we are building a different kind of landmark because we are losing a physical one. We are building a moment in time. And what I ask for you is let us not turn this into a point of division. Let this not be your legacy. We know that you're going to vote to approve the special use permit. We get that. But what we're asking is that the gap in communication between citizen and representative never become this wide again. When we reach out, just answer us. If we've reached out to you numerous times, don't use your position to say, well, I guess you should have reached out sooner. Guys, we're better than this. Bedford is better than this. You individually are all better than this because I know you and have known you all for years. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I will close the citizen comment portion and bring it back to any rebuttal or anything from the applicant? Nope, you're good. So we'll open it up for discussion and possible action.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
hearing no discussion, I make a motion we approve resolution R120924-04.
I have a motion for Mr. Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Davis. This is a roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Bansley?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. That moves us on to consideration of a resolution approving special use permit SU 24-0005 on behalf of Carriage Square LTD, Resolution R 120924-05. Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, special use permit application SU 24-0005. The applicant for this particular special use permit is Mr. Scott Beasley of Hurt and Profit. The owner of the subject parcel is Carriage Square LTD, excuse me. Developer Colson Builders Incorporated. And the subject parcel, the request is number 11725-600. Tax map parcel, to further identify that parcel, is 117A-2-42. The zoning of that particular parcel is Planned Commercial Development District with a quarter overlay district running along the street in front of the property. The special use permit that is being requested tonight is the townhouse use, 21 units to be specific, on the rear of the property. And the project is located in election district number 4. Here is a zoning map of the subject parcel showing the property is in PCD with the quarter overlay district running along Forest Road. You do have a plethora of different zoning around the property. You have the PD1 development of Thomas Jefferson Crossing to the east, and on the other side of the road you have C2, and you have the R4 development of the Gables of Jefferson Commons. Future land use map shows the property to be scheduled for mixed use. Aerial photograph of the property. There is a residence on the property. I believe that there used to be a for sale sign out there, but I don't believe the whole property is being used for a residence anymore. And here is the concept plan for the application. As I mentioned to you earlier, the contents of the special use permit is just for the portion of the very rear of the property where we have the townhouse units being requested. The commercial that is currently being shown on the individual lots and the out parcels will be part of a by right use approval process with our office. So our TRC comments for this particular application: a traffic impact analysis we needed for the overall development. The multifamily development, the Gables may restrict turn movements at a shared entrance. And the Bedford Regional Water Authority noted that the sewer connection is not directly on or adjacent to the subject parcel. Planning Commission held a public hearing on the application on November 12, 2024. One citizen spoke during the public hearing. They had concerns with stormwater erosion having a negative effect on their adjoining property. The Planning Commission did vote 7-0 to recommend approval of the application with a staff condition. That condition is general conformance with the concept plan and conformance with all ordinance standards as required for site plan approval. Any changes to the layout of the site that will result in increased impacts to adjoining properties, uses shall require approval of an amended special use permit, that process being outlined in section 30-19 of the zoning ordinance. Have any questions I can answer from a planning perspective?
Any questions for Mr. Mitchell?
The height of the townhomes? 2-story, 3-story, 4-story?
They're going to be 2-story from what I understand, yes.
I couldn't hear that. What was it?
2-story.
Any other questions?
VDOT's gonna do a traffic impact study.
They will actually ask the developer to produce that study. So that they will be required as part of the site plan stage of the property to see what kind of improvements are needed at the entrance.
So in other words, it's more or less to see about improvements at the entrance than it is to look at the existing traffic and the increased traffic generated from those townhomes.
Correct. Yes.
Are there any amenities planned there for these townhomes, such as tennis courts or pickleball or swimming pool for the citizens there?
Roll back over here to this real quick. No, there's a, I want to make sure you understand there's a stormwater management facility there. That is not going to be a swimming pool. I know that's been mistaken in the past at hearings before, so no. If it were a larger townhouse development, it would be required, but with this type of development, it's not required to offer that public amenity use.
I know we're gonna hear from the applicant, but I assume that the commercial area that's reserved, there's nothing planned for that area right now.
Correct.
I do have a technical question, but it's probably later on in the process, but, okay.
I know the Planning Commission, as part of the recommendation, did ask that they kind of work with the development next door, as there's a coordinated effort maybe to create an entrance that they could both share, and I think the developer was open to doing that on their end, but maybe he can give shed some light on that, if there's been any progress on that, or if there will be any progress on that. But I know the Planning Commission was specific in wanting the entrance to possibly come out right in front of the gables, maybe where that would be a better improvement for the overall area.
Any other questions? Now we'll hear from the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Scott Beasley. I'm with Hurt and Profit. I really don't have much to add because I think I'll just take your questions, but I did want to point out, as Jordan mentioned, during the Planning Commission hearing, a citizen did bring up concerns about stormwater damage to his property or concerns about erosion, stormwater issues, citing problems with runoff from 221. And I just wanted to point out that we obviously have to abide by all the state and local laws, you know, in terms of stormwater management, and that's handled at the site design and review approval process. And really just, you know, this request is only to allow the maximum number of residential units as allowed by right under the PCD district, which is the 21 units that that we presented in the conceptual site plan. The remainder of the property obviously is going to be office, commercial, and it has not been determined at this time what that will be. That's
If
all.
this is by right, then why do we have to have the special use permit? What's the
Because
condition?
the special use permit is required for residential and a PCD.
Okay.
Are you planning on trees between the townhouses and the commercial?
If that's a code requirement, yes. I'm not sure if that's required in this. I don't think it is.
There won't be anything there. And just to clarify, I know, 'cause, the special use permit is for the townhouse use. It's the chosen residential use of the property is the reason why you have the hearing tonight. The 30% of the PCD area can always be used for residential use. It just depends on which type you choose is the type of process you have to go through. So just want to clarify that.
Any other questions for Scott?
Is that a farm on the west side of the boundary there?
It is.
Do they have livestock, or is it just crops? Have
I
you
don't
heard
know.
anything from the farmers next
He's
door?
here tonight.
He's here to speak.
Okay.
Any other questions?
There's always hear about the need for more green space in forest, and if there is, I don't know how much space there is between the townhouses and the commercial, but there could be a dog park or some kind of green space that we're always hearing that we need.
Yeah, but I doubt they would want to open it to the public.
No, but for them, I mean, there's 22 people there. If there's some kind of green space in there, like if it was blocked by trees, some kind of a little tiny little small park area.
Well, I mean, I could say that that stormwater management pond that's shown on the west side of the townhouses is really just a placeholder. It hasn't been designed, obviously, at this point. So and the topography allows for the stormwater to possibly be piped to the front in that larger stormwater management pond there. So, you know, if that happens, then there would be some green space off to the west.
That'd be
That
really
could
nice.
be used.
You just don't want people going over to the farm.
To the farm.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
What are your projected demographics of the residents in those townhomes?
I couldn't tell you that. That'd be something for the builder or the developer.
Yeah, okay, so you don't have a price tag on the townhomes then?
I do not.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
This also has a citizen comment time. I do have one signed up to speak. That would be Ralph White. And just state your name and your address, and then your timer will start.
I'm Ralph White, from District 4. I'm the adjacent landowner. We own 140 acres and rent another 50 acres right next door to the proposed project. We've been here for generations, since the late 1800s. I have no objections to the proposed development or axe to grind with the developer. We are concerned, however, about how it affects the present and future use of our property. Personal property rights are important and should be protected, including the right to be left alone. The project is said to be served by public sewer. There is a gravity sewer line on our property that was condemned and installed many years ago in the late 80s. We encourage the PSA to install this line along the property line so that if adjacent properties wanted to hook onto it, we wouldn't have to be bothered. Obviously, that didn't take place. We're not interested in granting an easement across our property to connect to it. Like I said earlier, we just want to be left alone. A bigger concern is the discharge of stormwater by the creation of impervious surfaces, including asphalt, concrete, and roofs, gathering the water and dumping it on our property, creating a marsh on very valuable real estate and forest. Although there are rules for these stormwater management systems to prevent flooding and erosion, we have been affected by different projects that in our perspective did not. One private, one county, and one by the state. The lock and roll storage units across the road on 221. We were told that the storage system had evolved into a biofilter which has nothing to control the runoff. We were told that the slope of the stream running through our property was such that a pond was not necessary. Another excuse was that they could create a wetland in a different rural area so that the net effect on the Chesapeake Bay was a wash. This reminds me of the elitist virtue signaling by buying carbon credits to justify their fossil fuel usage. The county developed a recycling and trash disposal site across the street which has no control of runoff. The derecho a few years ago had a lot of red slime on the asphalt from the disposal of spoiled meat which washed directly into the stream by the fire department. The state widened 221 from 2 to 5 lanes. The Bedford side of the creek running through our property has all the curb and gutter water dumped directly into the stream instead of a stormwater management pond. The box culverts have holes in them to allow this. Appeals to the DEQ and Army Corps of Engineers resulted in sympathetic ears but no action. At the Planning Commission hearing, the engineers to the project pointed out that there was an engineered stormwater pond serving this area, rebutting my assertion. Yes, there is a pond, but it only serves the Lynchburg side of the stream, and water doesn't flow uphill. So Spring Lake in Lake Vista is the default stormwater pond for all these projects. I hope that the decisions made by the county will protect the present and future potential of our property, and projects under considerations are viewed for long-term benefits and not just short-term profits. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. White. All right. Any rebuttal on anything?
Just to point out, I mean, you know, some of what the citizen is saying is not entirely true. Biofilter does control runoff. It does manage stormwater quality and quantity. Not saying that that one across the street is designed properly. I don't know, but and then as far as sewer goes, you know, he mentions that it was condemned or property taken and that he wanted it put on the property line. That would have served us better, obviously, but that's, you know, topography wouldn't allow you to put the sewer line on that property line because it would probably be 30+ feet deep, which isn't conducive to sewer operations. But we do have options for sewer. We considered that we had about 4 options. He clearly stated that he wouldn't grant an easement for us to cross his property and tie into that line. So we're looking at other options, which include going across the street, boring under 221 and tying into the line that is on the other side, which then does make its way back across. But that is an option. It's topographically feasible. We also are looking at just going directly down the right-of-way to tie into the manhole that is right at the bottom where the line goes across his property. So there are options available. And quite frankly, if those options don't work out, there's no development. So that's all I would have to say at this point.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
I apologize. I was not able to finish. You guys might have to do something without me. I have to leave at a family emergency.
Gotcha.
But I'd prefer to be able to weigh in on this. I hate to ask for you guys to consider tabling it, but I'd like to get a briefing of what happened and then be able to weigh in on it later. I'm sorry.
All right, any other questions for him?
I do have one question. You said the option of boring under 221. How big a sewer line would you have to have for 21 units? Do you know?
The entire development would be served with a standard 8-inch line,
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
which requires a 16-inch casing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Others.
I have a question. If we were to table this to January, the supervisor represent that district, does that mess up your timelines?
You know, unfortunately, the developer and the builder are not here, so I really can't answer for them. I don't think so, but, you know, clearly we'd rather for it to be just, they've been doing this for a long time, trying to get this through. But, you know, that's your option.
Okay. All right, we'll move it to discussion now and see how we want to go.
Just,
Yes.
I need to be clear on something. Like Mr. Sharp asked a question, why is this even coming to us? If they have the right to do what they're talking about doing. So, what are we trying to pin down here?
Mr. Mitchell will do it.
The residential use is by right. The townhouse construction requires a special use permit. So if they were doing some other sort of residential, not townhouses, they wouldn't be here tonight. That'd be by right use. It's the townhouse construction that triggers a special use permit.
In other words, if we're like single-family homes?
He'd by right. Correct. Yeah, I think he just misspoke. Yeah.
Well, don't all townhomes need a special use permit? Isn't that the way it's written, unless it's in like an R4 or something?
R3 or R4, yep. Yes, that's correct. So there'll be a special use permit across the board no matter what, even if it's a district that allows for them, correct?
How many acres is it?
The whole overall property? 8.9, I think they are at around 3 acres or so is the 30%. 2.67, yeah.
I would just say, in my years of watching Supervisor Sharp, I've never seen what just happen. He's very dedicated, and he loves his constituents, and he always wants to fight for his constituents. I don't know what the family emergency was, but if at all possible, I would like to table this tonight in respect to him, in deference to him, and bring it up in January.
I'll second that.
Just to clarify, are we closing the public hearing and tabling the decision to next meeting, which would be my recommendation, or you keep?
Yes.
Okay. Just so we're clear on the record, so.
Yes. Would you like to make that in the form of a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to table this until January.
All right, I have a motion from Ms. Bansley,
I'll second.
second from Ms. Parker. Roll call? Okay, roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Bansley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. We will take it back up in January. All right, that moves us to consideration of a resolution approving special use permit SU 24-0004 on behalf of Native Enterprises Incorporated, Resolution R120924-06. Mr. Mitchell.
Credit Abigail for putting this presentation together for you tonight. I'm sorry she couldn't be with us. As you mentioned, special use permit application SU 24-0004. The applicant for the request is Jamie Wyatt. Property owner is Native Enterprises Incorporated. Subject parcel for this particular special use permit is number 905-12475. Size of that particular property is 18.52 acres and is further identified as located at 2565 East Lynchburg Salem Turnpike. Current zoning of that property is agricultural residential and agricultural rural reserve district, along with the quarter overlay district running along Route 460. Proposed use of the subject parcel is general use for buildings 1 through 7 and retail sales proposed for buildings 1 through 4. The project is located in election district number 7. Location map of the property here, showing right outside the town of Bedford, near the, I think it's very close to, there used to be a sign that said "Welcome to Bedford," not too far away from that site. Zoning of the property, as you mentioned, is split zoned. It is ARAP. You do have that consistent zoning around the particular property, and you also do have, as you get closer to the town, planned commercial development district. Future land use map shows the property to be for agricultural natural resource stewardship, and generally the area around it is the same. Here's an aerial photograph of the site. This is from 2024. So this is the concept plan in your packet that was given to you in your packet. Shows the 7 buildings. The developer did request to amend that to kind of move the boundary lines of the subject parcel a little further behind the commercial use of the property. They're being proposed. So just a change in simply where the rear boundary line is on the subject property. No change to the location of the buildings. So project impacts with this one, the property will be served by well and septic. VDOT will require a traffic narrative as part of the site plan stage of this development, and you will also need a land disturbing permit. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this application October 1st, 2024. We did have one citizen speak during that public hearing, citing concerns with increased traffic accidents and general incompatibility with the surrounding area. The Planning Commission closed the public hearing that evening, but tabled the decision until a future meeting. They reconvened and on this particular item on November 12, 2024. Prior to that meeting, the applicant did reduce the amount of buildings that were on the concept plan from 17 to 7. And the Planning Commission did recommend denial of the application, even with the conditions the staff proposed by a vote of 7-0. So here were the staff conditions that were proposed with the application. General conformance with the concept plan and conformance with all ordinance standards is required for site plan approval. Any changes to the layout of the site will result in increased impacts to adjoining properties and uses shall require approval of an amended special use permit of that process outlined in section 30-19 of the zoning ordinance. 2, approval of the special use permit shall supersede the approval of a previously approved special use permit number SU 20-0003 and will no longer be valid. Number 3, no outside storage of materials or equipment associated with the general office or retail use shall be permitted. Any questions I can answer from a planning perspective?
Gordon, I have one, if you want, I might have more than one, but I'll start with one. Go back to your conditions.
Oh, sorry.
Condition 2, where you said the special use permit, former special use permit will no longer be valid.
Right.
Isn't that something we approved a couple of years ago?
That's correct.
And can you refresh my memory of what we approved?
General office use as well with that. Except it's just one building with.
One building?
Yep, correct.
Do you recall what they were proposing, just other than general office, just the general office building? One building, how large was the
Yeah.
building, do you know?
Off the top of my head, I do know that the use that was proposed for the building was going to be used for a general office for a commercial landscaping business.
Landscaping?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, at the same property owner?
Same property owner, yes.
I think I'll wait till the applicant comes.
Any other
Mr.
questions
Chair?
for Jordan?
Yeah. But it said well and septic is gonna be, I thought there was water that ran down 460 there.
It is, but it's in it's in a section of 460 where the BRWA or VDOT will not allow the connection to come across.
Have they done any, is there any knowledge of available water in the ground there? I mean, to me, if somebody asked me that question, I'd say you don't know till you drill, but.
I mean, we did approve of the site plan related to the last special use permit where the health department did approve of that, so I would assume there is adequate, well and septic available in the property.
Can I ask what the planning commission's reasoning for unilaterally denying it was?
They didn't really provide a reason. I just think that it was more or less born from that it was just a little bit of uncertainty with the different uses of the property and maybe just the amount of buildings, but that's all I can really confer from their discussion. Sorry. Oh, yeah. I think it was also brought up that they thought that it was just not the right location for a leapfrog development as well.
Jordan, I do have one more. You said it's AP and AR, where that, does it look like that property line that comes down with the tree line? Is that the new property line?
That will be where they want to propose to put the property line if it were to be approved for the commercial portion of that property, yes.
Is that in AP or AR, do you know?
It'll be, go back over here, it'll be in the AR section of the
AR.
property.
Any other questions? I'll let the applicant come share with us.
Good evening. My name is Jamie White with White Engineering and Design, representing Native Land Works. So Jordan gave a good description of what we're trying to accomplish here. I want to kind of do a little bit of history on how we got to where we are. As mentioned previously, there was a special use permit that was approved for one building on this property. That's the current owner. He had a different business partner that was going to work on that project and build that. That partnership and business relationship dissolved, and he has a new business partner to work with him on expanding the use of the property to what we're seeing here today. So earlier this year, we submitted this as a 7-unit, pretty much what you see there. Boundary line was a little bit different. But we submitted a 7-unit building concept plan to TRC. In that plan, we got good feedback, and obviously we need to address any issues to the site plan approval with entrances, screening and things of that nature. There had been some confusion on kind of what kind of uses that we were projecting to get on this piece of property. So I want to kind of give a little bit of understanding of what we're targeting, because I know some of the discussion that happened at Planning Commission was kind of lean into this, maybe lean into more like a shopping mall type of experience in a facility. That is not what this is. These are going to be steel frame metal buildings. They're going to be targeted for commercial businesses, such as landscapers to have an office and have a place to store equipment. It'll be things where plumbers can have supplies, and then they'll have an office that they're going to be running their business out of. Potentially, it's going to be flooring companies that will have enough room to have a display in buildings 1 through 4 so they can do sales on those and have enough room to have stock. So the partnership of owners now that is working on this, there is a need for commercial space for small trades type of businesses to be able to operate out of, and there aren't many options for that. A lot of these businesses like this are too small or startups, and it's very difficult for them to get a piece of property and build a standalone building for themselves, and this gives an opportunity for that. Each building is going to be approximately 6,000 square feet with 4 bay doors, garage bays with 4 office doors on them as well. So these buildings can be divided up, either rented out as a whole if a business needs that much space, or could be separated into 4 different spots for these types of businesses. So in looking at where we were at, we came with that in TRC with 7 buildings. So once we kind of discussed some of the uses out here, we did have a meeting with the planning staff at the county to discuss what our best path forward is. And I know that in those discussions, since we were unsure what we were going to do with the rest of the parcel, it was suggested at that time that maybe it would be an opportunity to get use for this all the way across the 18.5 acres. We did come back with a modified layout of 17 buildings, which was kind of more than what we anticipated, and that would be something that would be way down the road. But kind of going off some advice that we have gotten, that may be a good opportunity to just kind of get that taken care of now, and then we can expand as uses and businesses need more space. When we got to Planning Commission, with the 17 building layout, we definitely got the feedback that it was way too much for this area. So what we did as a modification between the two meetings was tuck it back to our original 7 building layout. And looking at what we're trying to accomplish, there's some additional cost because this isn't the most ideal topography site. We've got to do kind of a little switchback access road to get down to the site as well. We believe 7 buildings will get a good opportunity. It could be anywhere from 7 different businesses to 28 businesses leasing space here. So with that, I mean, we were back to the 7 when we did modify it last go around to just kind of cut this property off to limit any type of potential future expansion of this. So what we're seeing there and where we're setting the property lines now, it's enough room to get in stormwater management. There have already been some drain fields identified on the site for use of this property, and we're trying to keep those drain fields on our property. So that's why we kind of put the boundary line where it's at now, and then we'll provide the buffer. The rest of it, which is about 9.5 acres, it's just going to be, we'll just adjust the property lines there between, and that'll just remain as undeveloped, I guess, AR designated property. Now, happy to take any questions that you have.
I have one. Just following up on Supervisor Davis's question regarding water and sewer there. One well to pull all these 7 buildings?
Well, but what the building's uses are, it's just going to have, they're not going to be high water demand businesses. It'll have restrooms for the office space, so it's not going to be a huge water demand facility. So one well, if we need to drill a second well on the property, that would be, we haven't done any well drilling to see what kind of water levels we're getting, but we cannot hook up to the public water that is across the street. I know we did talk with VDOT. I know VDOT had purchased the rights for water access through there. Our original intent was to possibly connect to public water, but VDOT would not allow it, so we would do wells on our side.
Any other questions?
You said 6,000 square feet
Per building.
per building times 7 buildings. You're gonna have to have parking, impervious areas in there too, besides just rooftops. You're talking about being on septic and well, and that's, in my mind, right much development for a special use permit. It's AR. I know that the front part is in the quarter overlay. Understand that on 460, so it's not that at all. But that's a lot of development to ask for a special use permit.
I understand. I mean, I think what the developer, they are in the construction business. They have a lot of people that they talk to that have specifically said that they need places to be for these types of businesses. Now, obviously, we're not going to come in there and put 7 buildings up without tenants. They'll be built in phases as we move forward, as they start to run out. But based upon some of the discussions we've had, I've had people who I have talked to, not associated with the developer, talking about needing spaces like this for these types of kind of trades type of operations.
I got a question.
Yes.
You said a minute ago that could be up to 3 businesses in each building?
Yeah, 3 to 4 on
Well,
each.
4, that'd be 28 businesses, which would mean 28 bathrooms.
That's correct.
some public use, people coming in, because you said it was, showrooms and stuff like that. And it, I mean, I have a concern with that, but what's the reason VDOT won't let you?
I guess
Well, cross-
because it's just limited. I'm not sure. I mean, I think they're trying to limit any impacts within the right of way. I mean, we would have to cross and get under the road. I know that they at some point purchased the rights of way from the property owners along certain sections of it to limit, I guess, potential crossings, I guess, with public infrastructure. That was VDOT's requirement, not something from BRWA.
With the property owners before this property owner gave up their right for water?
Well, the only thing that I'm positive of is our property. We do not have the rights to hook up. I'm assuming that's the case for a stretch down through this area.
Twin Lake Drive go down. Are they on public water?
Not sure. Yeah, in the discussions through TRC, it kind of went back and forth of, we just do not have the right to do that because VDOT has acquired the rights, so to speak, away from the property owners to be able to hook up. I'm not exactly sure what that process is and what the limits of their right purchases were and how much of restrictions along that corridor that they do have. I do know that our property is a property that they will not allow them. And keep in mind, any type of, we'll have to get well specialists to come out there and look, and obviously we'll have to get any approvals for wells, any type of systems. Obviously there need to be some level of, probably some level of a small storage or something like that, potentially for the site, depending on what kind of flow we can get out of them. But that would be all done through the health department. Would do that approval and review.
Supervisor Parker touched on parking, then got over into the water and sewer. So I guess I'm not clear on the parking. How many parking places?
So,
do you need for 28 businesses.
So it's done by square footage. So we're looking at what's required is. I think I got some cure. I think I got old stuff, but we probably need about 40 spaces because it's only a couple of spaces per 1,500 square feet.
But if they're businesses, they need more than a couple of spaces apiece.
Yeah, well, the types of businesses, obviously, we're not department store retailers, so that's going to play a major factor in it. So, and a lot of these are tradespeople that may even park inside a facility themselves. If it's a plumber, he's got all his equipment and stuff like that on his trucks. He's going to park inside the building and exit out of the building. That's what they'll end up doing. Now, and obviously, parking requirements, we'll meet the minimum. There's enough area to get all the required parking in. Some of that is going to be dependent on how the buildings are divided up and how parking needs to shift and be accommodated for that. So it's different calculation, whether it's the office space and what may be storage space that they have for the materials and stuff of that nature.
Looking at this drawing, where is the parking?
Kind of in between the buildings, there's a lighter shaded color that you can see the kind of a
strip going down.
Yes, strip going down the middle, and then there's kind of parking on each side of that aisle space facing the buildings. So all the buildings each have parking frontage right in front of their building.
Right in front of it.
Yeah.
How far out does the water and sewer come on that side of the road? I know it gets to the old Goods restaurant property.
Say that
Does
again.
it go any further than that?
Say that again.
The water and sewer that is on this side of the road.
Yeah, I am not sure about that. I do not know where it stops.
I know it's on that side.
I think at least right where we're at, it is across the road, but I'm not sure where it stops as on our side of the road.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. This is a public hearing as well. I don't have anyone signed up to speak on this one, but this is your opportunity if you meant to fill out something for me. See anybody jumping? So we'll close the citizen comment time and bring it back to the board for discussion and possible action.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I've got serious reservations about this project. You know, number one, not to be disrespectful to Mr. White, but a lot of the answers were so, didn't really have answers for some of the questions that we asked. And then the fact that they're gonna have to operate 28 businesses off one well and a septic system, I just, you know, I don't see how that's gonna work. And I think there's a lot of problems in the future. And to talk about it possibly being storage and a place for people to operate a business out of, and I am for small business owners, but I think then again, to speculate that it's gonna be retail space, selling flooring and other things that were mentioned, I think it's very conflicting there. And too much pie in the sky, as my father would say, and I'm not in favor of this project for the unknowns.
Any other discussion?
Well, Mr. Chair, for me, it's like I said before, this is an AR zoning. I know it's on 460. It is agricultural residential area all through there. There's nothing else even close to this vicinity like this. This is a commercial development and it's AR zoning. So for me, it's more, if you're asking for a special use permit, it would be for a use, okay? This is like a commercial development. So I just think the magnitude of what you're asking doesn't match the intent of a special use permit for me. In an AR zone, if it was a C2 zone, I wouldn't have any problem with it. What I would say to you is if you're gonna have something to this magnitude, you ought to have public water and public sewer to service it. So I just cannot support it the way that you have presented it. That's 6,000 square feet per building with the possibility of 4 businesses in each building. I can't even look at that and see how that would work. So, and you've changed your plan a couple of times. I mean, you were up to 17 buildings at one time. You already have an approved special use permit for this, for a business with 1 building on it. I know we approved that, and how that got all the way through the site plan process and got approved, and then now you don't want to do that anymore for the same owner. So I don't know, it's just a lot of uncertainty, and to that magnitude, I'm just not going to be able to support it. So if there's not any other discussion, I'll make a motion to deny this special use permit.
Okay, I have a motion from Ms. Parker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Davis. This is a roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Bansley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes for denial. That moves us on to consideration of an ordinance approving rezoning application RA 24-0006 on behalf of Ethan Pittman, ordinance 0120924-07. Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, this is rezoning application RZ 24-0006. Applicant and landowner for this application is Ethan Pittman. Subject property is RPC number 17808600. It's further identified as tax map number 178-A-75. Property size is 0.48 acres, excuse me. and is located at 8880 Dickerson Mill Road in Manita, Virginia 24121. The current zoning of that property is neighborhood commercial district, and the applicant is proposing to rezone the property to agricultural residential district to utilize the property for a single-family dwelling detached use. Property is located in election district number 2. And here is the location map of the property on Dickerson Mill Road. Here is the current zoning of the property. As you can see, it's neighborhood commercial as well as the adjoining property. And you have agricultural rural preserve and AR across the street. Future land use map has the property for agricultural natural resource stewardship. Aerial photograph, this picture is from 2022. And here is the applicant's concept plan, just a simple single-family home being proposed here. The current home on the property would be torn down as part of this. So the applicant has not submitted voluntary proffers with this particular application. Planning Commission did hold a public hearing for this application November 12, 2024. We did not have a citizen speak during the public hearing. The Planning Commission did vote 7-0 to recommend approval of the application. Any questions I can answer from a planning perspective?
Questions for Jordan? Is this one track, or is it a split off of that whole track for that neighborhood commercial?
If you're going down the road of why it was done to NC, I don't know.
Oh, well, I know what was there, but is it the same track with the store?
It's two separate parcels.
Split off of it. All right, applicant, you want to share anything?
They don't have anything to add.
Okay. All right, any questions for the applicant?
I do. Are you planning to live there?
Yes, sir. I do. I plan on building a 1,000 square foot home with a single car garage on it. It's already got a viable well and septic on it, so it has everything. The house is tore down, so it's a nice complete flat land there now, so it's ready to go. So, yep.
Thank you. Great. This is also a public hearing. I do not have anyone signed up to speak for or against it, but I offer you the same thing. If you feel compelled, you can speak now. If not, I will close the public comments time, open it up for discussion, possible action.
Is this Terry's Country Club?
It is. It is the old house that was next door to the store.
I just like to say that I think it's commendable that the young man there is building a home and taking a piece of property that had an old house on it and doing what he's doing. I mean, it's already been said. I certainly support it.
Well, I know this property and it's in my district, so I'm going to make a motion, if there's no other discussion, to approve ordinance O-120924-07.
Second.
Second from Mr. Johnson. This is a roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Bansley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
I look over to see Tommy, he's leaving. Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes.
I don't look like Mr. Scott, do I?
Thank goodness.
Almost like twins. All right. That moves us to our action and discussion items. The first one up is consideration of a resolution approving the updated fire and rescue apparatus funding plan and appropriate funding for plan implementation. Resolution R-120924-08. Chief Blankenship.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you allowing us to come back before you tonight. And again, we're requesting the approval of the fire and rescue apparatus funding plan and to appropriate the funds needed for fiscal year 2025 and 2026. As you recall, back in the spring of 2024 of this year, staff met with our fire and EMS agencies, sharing and talking about and discussing about a proposal of an upcoming funding plan. From that point on, staff, along with finance staff, worked cohesively together through the summer months to establish a plan to move forward. And of course, we presented to you all the September 23rd at a work session, and again on November the 18th at a work session to share with you the plan that we had set forth. So tonight, we're requesting that you approve the apparatus portion of the plan. In that plan, how it is enhanced this time around, we have some of the notable changes are that we have changed from 50% funding of 2 engines per agency. Now we will be funding 100% of an engine per agency. Again, this will allow the agency to help reduce the financial liabilities that they currently have on them due to escalating cost and rising prices in apparatus across the board. Also included in that, previously there was 50% funding for the ladders and the rescues that were in the plan, and we're proposing 100% funding for those pieces of equipment. We will continue to provide 50% funding for 1 brush truck and 1 taker per volunteer fire agency. Again, an enhanced portion of is to fund 2 fireboats, 50% funded, for the Bedford County side of Smith Mountain Lake, and we have not funded those before. And also, new funding, ambulances, we will fund 1 ambulance per agency, which we have not done in the past for many, many years. In total, the appropriation request that we have before you tonight would be for $8,337,391. Also in your packet, and as we reviewed in the past work sessions, the funding sources have been presented to you and available to you. I will say that I want to shout out to the finance department, to Ms. Anderson and her staff. We have worked together for many months now and worked really well together. So to bring before you a new and approved plan. And I'm available for any questions that you may have, and also Ms. Anderson is available for any financial questions that you may have or want clarification on.
So I do have a question.
Mr. Chairman, what kind of feedback have you gotten from the?
So, and I will add to that. So we did, when we met with both fire and EMS agencies back in October, it was a favorable recommendation for this funding plan to move forward. It was all positive.
There was no dissension among any of the fire chiefs?
No, sir, not that I have heard at all since we started the program and since we presented to them.
Mr. Chair, does this in any way impact the fact that some, pardon me,
Bless you.
volunteer agencies collect their own, do their own collections?
So you're talking about in the EMS revenue collections?
Yes.
There is 1 agency that does their own collections.
And will that have any bearing on them?
No, sir, this will not.
My question is, so you said it's just the apparatus piece that's starting. So
Right.
the other piece would pick up in fiscal '26, and this would begin January on the apparatus?
Immediately.
Okay.
Yes, and then anything providing funding for years 2027 would be handled on an annual basis through the CIP process.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, if there aren't any more questions, make a motion that we approve resolution R120924-08.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Johnson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Ms. Bansley. This is a roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Bansley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. That moves us to consideration of a resolution approving a request to remove the Board of Supervisors from the approval of additional private streets in the Mariners Landing Development, Resolution R 120924-09. Mr. Mitchell.
Put threw this together real quick for you all to kind of point out what's being requested with tonight's amendments. So essentially, I do have the current approved master plan on your left side of the screen, and we do have the a proposed amendment on the right-hand side of the screen. So essentially, the developer is just simply changing that the portion that says additional streets that are to remain private will need the Board of Supervisors approval, exempting those serving multifamily in the retreat. He is proposing to change that to additional streets that will remain private, will need to meet the Architectural Review Board's established criteria and require the declarant's approval. He also provided the rationale for this particular amendment. It's in your packets. One, efficiency and time saving. Removing the need for the individual board approvals for each new street project will significantly reduce administrative burdens and accelerate development timelines. Two, maintenance and budget considerations. The master plan robustly addresses the maintenance of private roads by mandating specific budgetary line items in association budgets. This ensures adequate funds are earmarked for ongoing road upkeep, mitigating the board's concern that the potential neglect of non-VDOT roads. And three, current anticipated projects. They are advancing 2 projects, and this requirement would impact Mariners Grande and the Affordable Veterans Housing Project in collaboration with the American Legion Post 62's leadership. Both projects are, and likely future ones, will benefit from this streamlined processing, allow for quicker development with fewer bureaucratic hurdles. That's all.
Any questions? How many homes are there, Mariners Grande? 20. Any other questions? All right. Well, this is
Mr. Mitchell, I have a question. What's your opinion of this?
With Mariners Landing, I think the reasoning is sound. I mean, from talking with Mr. Perro, I know he's got some, he's doing a wonderful job of reinvigorating and revitalizing the Mariners Landing development, and it already has private streets within the development as is. Unless you want to hear all of them for you, I don't see a reason as to not grant it.
Thanks.
Well, if there's no other discussion, I will make a motion that we approve Resolution R 120924-09.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Johnson. This is a roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Bansley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. That moves us to consideration of a resolution authorizing the county administrator to execute a deed of easement to PTI LLC, a Virginia limited liability company. Mr. Skelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When the Corporate Park Drive Extension project went in several years ago, it still left 2 pieces of property at the very end, which are going to be served with a private street. In the course of that project, there's a stormwater maintenance facility that now sits on the corner that is owned by the county. So to extend the private street to get access to those properties, one of which is owned by Mr. Scott on the south side, and the other is being developed by Brent Lilly on the north side. To get Mr. Scott access to his property, it requires an easement, a very small easement across the county stormwater maintenance facility to get the proper 20-foot width. I spoke to the county engineer about whether that would impact at all the county functions for the stormwater maintenance facility. He says it has absolutely no impact whatsoever. So in order to allow that private road to go in and allow access on the south side to Mr. Scott's property, what's before you is that deed of easement providing that access.
Questions for Mr. Skelly? All right. Any discussion from the board on this?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to abstain from this.
Wait. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, if there's no discussion, I'll make a motion to approve. AR 120924-10.
I have a motion from Ms. Parker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Davis. This is roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Bansley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, that moves us to board committee reports. Don't have any listed. Board comments. Anything anybody would like to share? I will share that I did attend the strategic planning session for the Tobacco Commission in Danville this past week and advocated for our agritourism efforts in Bedford as they were trying to figure out what to spend money on. So, anything else? All right. Mr. Hess, anything for you to report?
Yeah, I do have a brief presentation. I want.
You didn't beat me this year. You had your chance tonight. I would have made a motion anytime.
I'll just take about 5 or 6 minutes. A lot of times, there's been a lot of accomplishments over the last 100 days. Myself and Justin and DW were talking about a lot of things that have been accomplished since late August. It's been kind of an unusual amount of really meaningful decisions that the Board of Supervisors have made, all work by staff, input by citizens. I just wanted to kind of recap that. I don't think a lot of times we look back and acknowledge some of the things that have been accomplished. So I just wanted to take just a couple minutes to do that. You know, we had a real strong finish to this year. So I took some assumptions tonight that you did approve the launch of fire and EMS strategic plan for planning for the future. The comprehensive plan was approved. The recreation facility master plan was approved. And of course, one of those projects has already been starting to kick off with the pickleball courts currently out to bid. You just heard tonight during the work session, we finished the information technology strategic plan. We've started a fleet management policy. We awarded $2 million in grants to develop future parcels in New London and started the build out of the recreation online registration portal, so make it much more convenient for citizens to sign up for their sports activities for their children and other amenities. So there's a lot of energy and effort going into planning for the future. Public safety, in particular, highlight just a couple things here. We just talked about this. This was just approved. The EMS and fire funding strategy for the volunteer agencies. You know, we just talked about the apparatus funding, and we'll come back in the very near future about the stipend payments to the volunteers that we've discussed in the work sessions. That'll come up in the near future. The animal shelter, the Board of Supervisors approved expanding the facility. Bidding will be commencing in early January, so we can get that moving along in the first half of 2025. Issued a request for proposals for the design services for the social services and sheriff's office expansion project. So that's a major capital project for the county government. So not only making the decision to site the DSS building there, but also getting us moving forward with a design effort. And we managed the impacts from Hurricane Helene. All this has also occurred in the last 100 days. Just from an overall community perspective, the Solid Waste Department and DW in particular started the Love Where You Live roadside cleanup program. So that's been started, hosted the World Disc Golf Championship. You know, that was I saw an economic impact report from that, and for our region, for Lynchburg and Bedford County, that was a $5 million economic impact to the region for that event. Parks and Recreation did the Blue Ridge Bee Festival, which had a lot of success and a lot of turnout for that. election. You know, you take that for granted sometimes, but we had a successful election. Not that I'm aware of too many problems, but, you know, when you have over 74% turnout, over 20,000 people participating in the early voting, you know, that's a lot of work by a lot of people in order to pull off an election. Celebrated the 20th anniversary of the Welcome Center. You know, that Welcome Center is just an awesome facility, and our staff does a great job working out of there. Completed the paving to the Forest Rec and connection path to the Forest Library. We've been talking about that since I first got here, so I'm glad we got that done. So that's been accomplished, and that's been being utilized by the residents in Forest. Paved a parking lot at Moneta Park, so now it's not quite as a dust bowl as it used to be. So that's a better amenity. Came to an agreement with Paul Macbeth to redesign the New London Disc Golf Course, and he has submitted a design. The Economic Development Authority last week accepted that design or is ready to move forward with that. So anyways, that's happening. And of course, we heard a little bit about the county fair tonight as well, and kind of a successful relaunch of that effort since the pandemic. From an employee perspective, just a couple of things real quick. We had a great fall festival with hundreds of employees attending that, and that was with a great time. We had a wellness day with different health checkups. You know, we always want to make sure, you know, we're looking at our health insurance and looking out for the well-being of our employees. So that was a series of checkups that employees were able to have on site. We had an employee hike to Sharp Top, which that was a fun team building activity. And we're working on this timekeeping and payroll system. I know I put it under employees because this will give employees much more access and control over their scheduling and their benefits and their employee records and so forth. So this is not only organizational efficiency, but also giving employees more access to their information too. And just a couple other things, broadband. We had a positive, we heard from all the broadband partners and internet service providers that they're really on schedule and to complete their work in 2025. We're also awarded 2 state grants for the Virginia Make Ready initiative to help both Shentel and Zytel in their efforts. And of course, the board just approved another Make Ready application for Zytel, and we'll see if that gets awarded. Audit was completed on schedule. We hadn't done that in a couple of years, so that was a great accomplishment by staff. Solaris buys a Teva building, and that was a $63 million investment. It'll bring 104 jobs to that area. And Chairman Tuck and myself, we had an opportunity to meet with their CEO, and that they're very excited to be in Bedford County and move forward. And just last week, the fiber run from Highway 43 to the landfill office building was complete, and in talking with IT staff, we hope to have that connection totally completed by the end of this week. So anyways, I just wanted to highlight there's just been a lot of activity in the last 100 days, a lot of, again, great work by staff, a lot of big decisions that the Board of Supervisors have made, and of course, many of these decisions to also incorporate input from citizens and different volunteer groups as well. So anyways, just wanted to have an opportunity to show some of the good work that we're doing and finishing up 2024. So thank you. That's all I had.
Mr. Yes. So you got fiber, do you have a building there?
Yes,
At
it
the
is.
landfill?
It is currently under construction, and I know what, maybe a quarter of the way done, probably. So, anyways, they're out there working hard on that.
I got a real quick question. How are we coming with the software update as far as getting it in place and running?
Which software?
What's the name of it?
Munis?
Yeah. Remember Ashley said that they would have it, their intent was to have it up and running by the end of this year.
Yeah, that was a UKG project. I was saying that's about 90% complete. There'll be some employees we've had 2 big training sessions on that with employees, and certain aspects of that program will go live before the end of this month. There'll be a couple other aspects of it that will go live in first month or 2 of 2025. So that's still progressing nicely.
Mr. Stouter, anything from you?
No, sir, no report this evening.
How about you, Mr. Lawhorn? All right. We do have a few board appointments we need to make this evening. So we have the first one is the Agricultural Economic Development Advisory Board for District 5.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to, for us to reappoint Heath Tanner to the Agricultural Board beginning February 25 and ending January 31st, 2029.
Okay, have a motion for Mr. Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Davis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have, for the Bedford Regional Water Authority, we have 2 positions to fill.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to reappoint Anthony Gray and Kevin Mealy as at-large members of the Bedford Regional Water Authority for a term beginning January 1, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2028.
Okay, I have a motion for Ms. Parker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Scott. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. And we have 3 positions for the Bedford County Board of Zoning Appeals.
There's not any kind of conflict there if they're on the planning commission, is
No, code specifically says that one member of the planning commission can serve on the BZA. So.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to reappoint Waller Perro, Nick Kessler, and David Whitehurst as at-large members of the Bedford County Board of Zoning Appeals for a term beginning February 1st, 2025 and ending January 31st, 2030, which are 5-year terms.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Ms. Parker, seconded by Mr. Scott. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We have the District 7 slot for the Economic Development Authority.
And Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to reappoint Jim Mezier to represent District 7 on the Economic Development Authority for a term beginning February 1st, 2025 and ending January 31st, 2029.
Okay, I have a motion from Ms. Parker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Scott. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have to fill the supervisor and an alternate for the Tri-County Lakes Administrative Commission.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we reappoint David Wells to the TLAC, Tri-County Lakes Administration.
That's the citizen. That's the citizen.
Make a motion that we appoint Edgar Tuck.
Who's the alternate?
And Mickey Johnson as the alternate supervisor representative of the Tri-County Lakes Administrative Commission for the term beginning February 1, 2024, ending January 31st, 2025.
Second.
Thing, we got a meeting tomorrow. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Now we have this citizen at-large rep for TLAC.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we reappoint David Wells as the citizen at large rep for TLAC for a term beginning February 1st, 24 and ending January 31st, 25.
Okay, I have a motion for Mr. Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Scott. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. We also need to appoint our county administrator as the rep for TLAC.
I make a motion to appoint County Administrator Robert Hiss as a county representative to the Tri-County Lakes Administrative Commission for a term beginning February 1, 2024, and ending January 31st, 2025.
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Bansley, seconded by Mr. Scott. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that passes. All right, Mr. Skelly, anything?
Just very briefly, Your Honor, or Your Honor, excuse me, Mr. Chair. Old habits die hard, but I just wanted to.
I didn't know riding in the parade with the mayor. Give me that.
You got a promotion, didn't even know it. I just want to make the board aware that earlier in the year, the sheriff, in conjunction with the Commonwealth Attorney and our office, sent a letter of enforcement to businesses still having skill games in their places of business, contrary to Virginia law. As a result of that letter, the county got sued and the sheriff got sued. And our office filed several motions contesting even the validity of the lawsuit, and we did manage to have that withdrawn by the plaintiff without even having to go to court. So just wanted to report that.
Let's say we could ride together when we go.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Board information.
Games? I thought it was gambling.
You've got a couple of things in there for just information, which, special review project for the New London Academy parking. You got your BRWA minutes in there. And upcoming meetings, Mr. Hiss?
Yeah, we have no more scheduled meetings in December, so hope everybody has a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, with the next meeting being January 13th. And I know we'll have I think we're gonna end up talking about broadband mostly during our work session. So there might be other things too.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, as I also make a motion, we adjourn.
I have a motion for Mr. Scott to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second for Ms. Bansley. All in favor, signify